Hello and welcome to the GTAS podcast, being recorded on July 14th, 2018. I believe this is the 31st or 32nd episode?
31st, I think.
I don't remember. Usually Bobby calls me a D name, so I don't have one. But we have a lot of stuff to talk about, including some Star Wars information, some things that I do vaguely remember talking about this before. Okay, good. Never mind. I was worried that I was like, I don't know what we're doing with this one.
That's fine.
We're going to talk about Joaquin Phoenix being officially cast as the Joker. Some Mortal Kombat information. I wanted to talk about an issue happening between ArenaNet and just the video games community in general, which has been being talked about a lot in other shows for the past couple weeks, and I was hoping that it would go away so we could just ignore it, but apparently it's not going to. And I'm sure we'll just talk bullshit about some other stuff.
Cool.
Okay. I saw Sorry to Bother You last night, which you weren't able to meet me there.
Yeah.
But that was a very interesting film. I don't want to tell you too much because there's like halfway through the film, there's like a horror sci-fi twist to the film. But it starts off as sort of a cynical comedy. Mm-hmm. First half of the film moves pretty quick in terms of the plot. But it's about a telemarketer who he's doing really poorly at his job. And an older telemarketer played by Danny Glover turns to the main character, Cassius Green, who's played by can't remember his name, but he's Darius in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And tells him, you need to use your white voice. And he goes, what are you talking about? People always tell me I talk white. He's like, I'm not talking about talking proper. I'm talking about using your white voice. And then Danny Glover's character launches into this like super nerdy white guy's voice. Yeah. It's voiced over by somebody else. Yeah. And there's two other black characters who have this like voice power. Cash is voiced over by David Cross.
Yeah, I did see that in the trailer.
And then his like the boss for the second floor, which is like the power caller area, is voiced by Patton Oswalt. So it's a really good film. Very relevant critiques in terms of like labor relations and a little bit of race dynamics. And then they like I was telling you earlier, they introduced this like Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel-esque character halfway through the film, and then that's where it turns into sort of like a sci-fi horror comedy. But yeah, it was a really good film. I really enjoyed it. I think you should go see it.
Yeah, it's on my list of things to see.
Yeah.
I was hoping to go see it last night, but Hillary actually took me to Potterfest at the Carnegie Natural History Museum, which is cool because I like just finished reading the books not too long ago.
Yeah.
So she surprised me with tickets to that.
Yeah.
And that was fun. Yeah.
We're also doing something a little out of character on the show because Bobby's not here.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Bobby. We're eating donuts on the show. We have them here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Identical donuts, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so the first thing that he has written down, and that I think is an interesting thing that we should definitely talk about, because I was worried he was going to write about a bunch of stuff down that I wasn't going to want to talk about. We were just going to skip it, but all of this is relatively interesting. But the first thing is that it was announced that Billy D. Williams will be returning as Lando Calrissian in the Star Wars universe, which it's about fucking time.
I'm surprised. Like, I know it's pretty recent news, but like Bobby has cosplayed as Billy D. Williams. I figured he would
years.
Yeah, I figured he would want to be here for that.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll probably cover it again.
Yeah.
Just to get his thoughts on it. But that is one of Bobby's famous costumes.
Yeah,
to have met good. Billy D. Williams as Billy D. Williams.
Yeah. But no, it's cool that they're getting him back for it. I mean, it's weird only because now we have Donald Glover as the young Lando. Mm-hmm. So just to have, I mean, I don't know. The Solo movie wasn't bad. I enjoyed it.
I still haven't seen it. Okay. From what I've heard, it's good. It doesn't offer you any new information.
Right.
That's the main problem.
Yeah.
And that people, I guess, I get accused of doing this, but if one thing's bad in something, like,
Yeah.
people just go, this is fucking bullshit.
Yeah,
fucking...
and I didn't think it was bad. It was definitely cheesy at a lot of moments because they would do this thing. No, it's totally supposed to be that kind of movie.
Yeah, that's what I felt like too.
Every time there was like a callback, like since it's a prequel, they would do like a version of the Star Wars theme, like underneath it. So like Han Solo is sitting around a campfire with Woody Harrelson's character, and Woody Harrelson has this huge fucking like rifle, and he starts taking pieces off of it and hands Han a blaster.
Yeah.
And then there's like a little underscore of the Star Wars theme, and Han's just like looking at it like, this is cool.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're doing the whole movie, is like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it'll be good to see him come back.
Yeah.
Obviously, like you said, he was last played by Donald Glover, which I heard that performance was probably one of the better parts of the movie.
It was. I would watch a young Lando movie.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So he has that listed as a scheduled release of December 20th for episode 9.
Okay.
So I mean, like I said, I'm glad to see him back.
Yeah.
He hasn't done much recently.
No.
So he's just been doing a lot of like public appearances at cons and stuff like that. So it'll be good to see him back and working, and I think that's a good direction. Considering it, like, if you think about what Lando is in terms of like in relation to Leia and Han, he's kind of like in the same caliber.
Yeah.
And it seems like they're, well, obviously they didn't kill Leia off in the second, but she died in real life.
Yeah.
So it feels like that maybe that might be the direct. They're like showing the remnants of the old rebellion sort of dying off and being replaced by the newer characters.
Yeah.
Which some people have a problem with, but I think that's a good way to write the story.
Yeah. And I think the last thing I remember Billy D. Williams doing in the Lego Batman movie, they brought back his version of Two-Face that I'm pretty sure he did the voice of in the movie, which was cool because, that whole movie is filled with a bunch of DC superheroes and villains and stuff, and then all of a sudden it turns to like Two-Face, and you're expecting like sort of like a Tommy Lee Jones type Two-Face, but it's Billy D. Williams.
That's one of the things that always kind of irked me about the 90s Batman films is that when they first show Harvey Dent, it's Billy D. Williams.
Yeah.
And then later on, even though Batman changes, like that part doesn't matter.
Right.
But they changed Harvey Dent. I'm like, Harvey Dent was black.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was just like that was weirder for me than Batman changing.
Oh, totally. And they kept the same Alfred and like various elements of the movies.
Yeah. But they kept changing out Batman.
Yeah.
Which I figured like, oh, it's just like in James Bond. They changed out James Bond.
Exactly. And it's fine. You ignore it.
Yeah. But for them to change, it was weird. It was weird for me as a kid. The fact that I even noticed it and that I remember noticing it is weird.
Yeah. Because
it's something that a kid probably shouldn't pick up on and shouldn't care about.
Kind of.
Yeah, but all right. So that's actually, we already talked about it, but we have written down here, will he survive through it? So, and we already talked. I feel like probably not.
Yeah, and there's really no good reason for it to be that way. Like he shouldn't really survive. Like you said, having the last remnants of that group, like it's time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel like that's a good way to, if you kill them off, and then you immediately replace them with somebody out of the newer cast that is capable of filling that role.
Yeah.
And it's a smart way to solidify the importance of those characters going forward.
Exactly.
If they decide to go any further than this, we don't know. I mean, they probably will.
Eventually.
As long as it continues making money, they'll keep going.
Yeah.
So we're also going to talk about the Birds of Prey film, which when I initially read, we had written down, I'm like, I don't remember anything about this. But then I remembered that it's a part of a DC property. Isn't that correct? Yeah. So you probably know more about this than I do, but
a little bit, but
so it's going to have multiple female leads in it.
Yeah. The Birds of Prey consists of the Huntress, Black Canary, and I always forget the last one, but a pretty prominent, or at least like, I don't think it's Catwoman. That wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
But it's another prominent female hero.
Yeah. Well, they also have Margot Robbie listed as being in the film.
Yeah.
Which isn't
From
she?
my knowledge, yeah, she's not a part of any Birds of Prey shit.
But is she reprising her role as Harley Quinn, or is she doing a new character within the DC film universe again?
Well, see, so DC does this sort of thing all the time, so I wouldn't be surprised if she's another
a completely different character.
And it's not related at all to Suicide Squad or anything like that.
Yeah, well, we're going to get into that a little bit later, too, but...
Fucking drives me nuts. But, yeah, so I would assume, just based on, probably her contract or anything, she would have to reprise Harley a few more times.
Yeah.
So maybe she's the villain of the movie, or like Harley Quinn sometimes goes back and forth between good and evil.
Yeah.
So I could see her being like somebody they pull off like the sidelines to do whatever they need to do in the movie. It's a cool, like, the only thing I know about the Birds of Prey is everything I've seen in like the animated shows or the movies. And they've always seemed like interesting characters. I've only read like The Huntress or maybe like one Black Canary book, and I'm glad that there's gonna be more like representation and all that shit to have this heroine group like lead their own film.
Yeah.
But DC, as an entity, doesn't really know how to manage their shit, and I know that's probably more Warner Brothers, but DC is also signing off on shit.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This is what I thought about Suicide Squad, was like, it's an interesting idea, have a villain cast be like your protagonist basically, but then it turned out to be shit.
Yeah.
So it could really fuck everything up, and people would be like, I fucking hate Birds of Prey, which is not what they should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna watch it.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you is, do you think that they're going down this road specifically because of the success of Wonder Woman?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And do you think that that's a smart move?
I get why they think it's a smart move.
I guess what I'm saying is, do you think there's something unique about Wonder Woman beyond it being just a female character that also lended to its success that this film might not have?
Well, that's the real problem with Wonder Woman, is she's very much like just a female Superman. She's not super distinguishable. Like, her whole planet is like, it's all these badass females and stuff, but other than it being a woman empowerment film, the plot wasn't really there for the movie itself. And then I don't know what they're going to do with the 80s, the new Wonder Woman that's going to be like Wonder Woman 84 or something.
Yeah.
So I do think it's more or less just like, well, Wonder Woman worked. We want to make women more superheroes in movies and shit.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only reason they're going to go after it. Which, like, I like Wonder Woman as a character, but the same thing, like I said, with Superman, it's not as interesting because you have to make the stakes so unbelievably impossible that you can have the conflict for a superhero that can do basically everything.
Yeah.
So, like, that's why I love Batman so much. Because he's a human being and he's just rich as hell. And, like, he finds himself in weird shit. And he more than often prevails, and it's interesting to me. He also has that whole psychology aspect of it.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of psychology in Batman.
Yeah, but, like, I don't know. I liked Wonder Woman when I saw it, but then when I rewatched it, I was like, there's nothing really here. It's just, I was, like, caught up in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't have known any of that because I didn't go see the film because I'm not really that interested in the DC film universe.
Totally.
I got to be honest about that because they haven't really handled it well.
No.
In my opinion, probably. I mean, Batman Forever was passable. But after that, what are you doing?
Yeah. No, see, as a kid, I loved all those movies. Then rewatching them with everything I've learned about Batman.
Yeah.
It's like, these are ridiculous, but for the time, I was like, at least we have this.
Yeah, because 89 in Returns are fucking. They still hold up. They're great.
Yeah.
They're great. But after that,
it just starts getting weird. And I know that was Paul Schumacher's envision of what Gotham and Batman comic book movies were to him. Yeah. So they were like over the top, and you have Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey doing these over the top characters. So it was kind of a mixture of like Burton's dark world, but with like the 66 Batman villains. It seemed like
very very like animated and obnoxious.
Exactly. And I guess for not really knowing what comic book movies could be now, that was just what they thought.
That's true, because if you think about, with the exception of maybe the Superman movies, which I would argue probably don't hold up very well.
I mean, the first one's fine, and then they sort of just start getting weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would say before then there were attempts at many comic book movies, and they were all very bad.
Yeah. Like I have like a Captain America movie on DVD that I found at a thrift store, and it's just... He's literally just in the costume. There's nothing like Captain America about this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even the Christopher Nolan movies, I think as realistic and as cool as they are, like, obviously The Dark Knight's the strongest, but that has really nothing to do with Batman.
Yeah.
That's all Heath Ledger's Joker.
Yeah.
As a character, not so much as a Joker character. I think the movies would hold up better if they weren't even called Batman movies. If they were like taken out of the Gotham City and just made into
like a whole new superhero.
Yeah, exactly. Because they work like that, and a lot of the Batman stuff doesn't really hold up if you compare it to like the comic books. But they're still good movies, like they're shot well and shit like that. But yeah, anything DC has done, or Warner Brothers particularly, it's just not good. It makes me so sad. And it was when the new Joker origin movie was first announced, not before they had any thoughts of who would play the Joker.
Yeah.
That it was going to be separate from the Jared Leto Joker movie that was also going to be released. That I was like, fuck, I'm out. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. It's they're basically redoing the type of shit that they were doing in the 80s and 90s with comic book films.
They're not connected. They're just, we have this property, we have these characters, but it has nothing to do with anything that's come before.
They're trying to do it like they do with comic books, where they have like completely different continuities going on at the same time.
Yeah, which doesn't really translate.
Yeah,
especially with Marvel, like being what it is. Mm-hmm. That's sort of what people expect.
Yeah,
and so they're
because they made the path.
Mm-hmm.
Like, regardless of what you have to say about those films, because I know some people that just think that they're all very formulaic and shitty.
Yeah.
And in some regard, I can see some of those arguments, but I still enjoy the films.
They're enjoyable and entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They made the path. So the only way for you to find success, I feel like, is to widen the path or plant some nice trees along the path.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to...
Yeah, they're trying to do almost the exact opposite of what Marvel's doing. And it seems sort of out of spite, because they're like, we're different than Marvel and we can do our own thing.
Yeah, but you don't have to be different.
I know.
You're both about superheroes.
Right. Like, I was totally fine back, even before like this new Justice League, Ben Affleck, Batman, all this universe shit. I was like, just take Marvel's example and like run with it. Like that's what people will respond to more than you doing your own thing. And then Suicide Squad came out, and since Spider-Man was being brought into Marvel again instead of Sony was going to do the Sinister Six movie.
Yeah.
So because that wasn't going to happen, like that was alluded to at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
So since that wasn't going to happen because now Spider-Man's going to come to Marvel, DC was like, we're going to do Suicide Squad and do the villain thing that they didn't do. And I was like, this is awesome. They're trying something new.
Yeah.
Something completely different that Marvel hasn't been able to do yet, or Sony or Fox or anything like that, because that's all garbage. And then they fucked it up, and then it was this complete letdown. Some cool moments, like the coolest moment of that movie was when Batman showed up.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't be how it is. Like, even Will Smith was kind of good as Deadshot, but I don't know. It's just DC and Warner Brothers just can't get their shit together. Yeah. It's upsetting.
Yeah. Because I mean, I do like Batman a lot as a character. And I've always been a fan of like Batman video games. I even have the shitty ones like Batman Forever on Sega Genesis. Like I've always been a fan. And I've always felt like, and I think most people acknowledge that that's DC's strongest character.
Yeah.
Obviously, Superman's their most recognizable.
Right. And that's what Warner Brothers has adopted as like, oh, so we can't do any movies without these two characters.
Yeah.
Because, like, they could have made their DC EU, which is also stupid to call it that.
Yeah.
They've made it based around Batman and Superman, and they could have gone... They should have started with Wonder Woman, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they could have still led up to Justice League.
You know what? Chronologically, isn't she the first like hero to make an appearance, or would it be Superman in his younger days?
I don't know. I know the Superman. I think Batman might have been the first in the 40s, but Wonder Woman makes an appearance in some. I can't even.
No, I didn't mean like chronologically in real life. I mean like in the context of the entire overarching narrative. She's like the oldest hero.
The Amazonian. That's
Then like she shows up in like the 1940s, right?
Yeah.
It's when her character first starts appearing.
Yeah.
So
that
would make sense to lead with her and then start branching off into the characters that appear after that.
Yeah, because then you could pull her in as like a cameo in the later movies where you've introduced her in the 40s and now it's like modern day and she shows up and she hasn't changed at all. And then you can take your story from there. I also wasn't a huge fan of the gods element that they've introduced with like Steppenwolf being the Justice League villain and in Wonder Woman it was Ares. So like but they like jumped from, Lex Luthor to these gods that we have no basis for.
Do you think it's because they're planning to bring in Darkseid at some point?
Yeah. I think is specifically with Justice League, they brought in the mother boxes, which I had no knowledge of this before the movie. But then I looked it up and Darkseid is heavily like linked to those. So, and like, I think in some ways, Darkseid is like the Thanos of their universe. So
no, I think he definitely is.
So,
and I'm not sure who came first, but I think I saw like a sort of layout of their like overall powers.
Yeah,
and it seems like that Thanos would definitely lose.
Okay, that makes
to me.
Sense. Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't know. And since they rushed from like Man of Steel to Batman v Superman to like Wonder Woman and Justice League, there was no real build up to it.
Yeah.
And I know at one point, what's his name? I think it was David Lynch. Maybe. No, it was Mark Miller.
Yeah.
Was going to do a Justice League movie, Justice League Dark, before all this Man of Steel shit started happening.
Yeah.
But then Green Lantern did so poorly that they couldn't get it off the ground. And it was going to be super insane.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we actually showed a picture of the costumes on the show.
Yeah.
When the image got leaked.
I think so at some point.
Yeah. Some of them costumes look bad.
Yeah, they do.
Bad.
They do.
But I think for that time period, it probably would have worked.
Yeah. I mean, all the Superman Lives shit with Nicolas Cage being Superman.
Yeah.
I think his suit looked pretty cool. And he had a mullet, I think, and it was very, like, almost 80s.
Which, I don't know I think it was part of the animated universe, or it might have just been one of the comic book runs, but Superman actually did have a mullet at one point.
Yeah, I know, and I saw those pictures, and I've seen the comic books, and I was like, this would have been an entirely different Superman movie that we hadn't had before, and then that fell through. And it's like, the ideas, I think, are floating around, but nobody can execute them properly.
Yeah.
And that's the whole problem with Warner Brothers and DC being separate. I think DC should have its own studio, like Marvel does. That way they can control it more, and it's not just like we make movies that also are about comic books. They can make comic book movies.
I do feel like that most of the blame lays more on Warner Brothers than DC. Because Warner Brothers does this kind of shit, and they have a video game division. They do a lot of this kind of like meddling that fucks shit up.
Yeah. So
I wouldn't be surprised if it's all on Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
But Yeah, you brought up an interesting point that you think that they're like power jumping too much in the villain. For me, I feel like it's kind, with the exception of some of the villains, I feel like it's kind of been opposite in Marvel, where it seems like every villain is either just like a normal human that has plans,
Yeah.
or is the exact same level of powerful character.
Yeah.
I guess. And I feel like that's why some of the Marvel villains struggle to leave a lasting impression. You know, obviously we've had pretty good ones back to back. We had Vulture was pretty dope.
Yeah.
And obviously Killmonger and Thanos was pretty good.
Yeah.
But I think they sort of fell back on Ant-Man, which you didn't see yet.
No.
But I feel like the villain in Ant-Man is really boring and uninspiring.
Really?
Yeah, because...
and is that Ghost is the villain?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know if do you know anything about the film yet?
A little bit, but you can spoil it if you want.
Okay, well, I'm not going to spoil anything too heavy, but just for me, I really enjoyed the film. There was a lot of good jokes in it.
Yeah.
The action was great. The plot overall was kind of bad because the issue between the villain and the heroes, and then there's like also a third party involved, which they almost feel like they're there for comedy relief.
Yeah.
At some points. But the issue between the villain and the heroes could have been resolved by communication from like the get-go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's... I just got to say, it's one of the weaker villains for sure. But I did enjoy the film.
Okay. Well, and that's the other thing. I mean, Marvel's sequels tend to, with like the exception of Thor Ragnarok, they tend to be a little like the same thing but slightly tweaked.
Yeah.
Which from some of the trailers, it felt like Ant-Man and the Wasp was going to be that.
Yeah. There was definitely some character development in there.
Okay, good.
So,
because I'm still excited to see it. Like,
yeah.
I like Paul Rudd as Ant-Man.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, they bring in Lawrence Fishburne plays Goliath, but he doesn't actually like do anything as Goliath.
Okay.
But they reference that he was Goliath at one point. So, yeah, yeah.
Cool.
It's a decent movie.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this Joaquin Phoenix playing the Joker.
Yeah.
And this film being completely detached from the DCEU,
yes.
which is something that I was telling you we're going to bring up again later.
Yeah. So
what?
Why?
Yeah, why?
Why even bother?
Yeah.
I was not like this. Like I said, this was the point where I was like, so it's not related to any of the other DC movies. And then on top of this, there was going to be a separate Jared Leto standalone Joker movie, which I don't know if that's still a thing or what, but just...
I don't think they know what they're doing because they can't seem to get a hit.
Yeah.
So everything they do is a massive risk.
Yeah, exactly. And
because
it's showing.
Yeah. Like, this is something that I'm actually excited to see.
Yeah, and I was super excited when they were talking about Martin Scorsese directing it, but I'm pretty sure Todd Phillips is going to be the director for this movie. But the other thing too.
So is Scorsese not involved at all?
I don't know. I couldn't confirm that. But it was super interesting to me that they were going down this route because it, like, the Joker as a character could just be a dude off the street that like went crazy, or however you decide to look at the Joker as a character. But it felt like this was going to be way more of a character piece movie that didn't necessarily have to be connected to anything else.
Yeah.
So on one hand, I was excited not only because Warner Brothers is again doing something different, but they got a pretty good actor to play the Joker. And
honestly, perfect choice.
Yeah,
in my opinion. I don't know about appearance-wise, but in acting ability-wise, perfect choice.
I've seen photoshops of him in the Joker getup, and
yeah.
it looks pretty solid. Like reminiscent of Mark Hamill's animated Joker, even in the Arkham games or the animated series.
Yeah,
and he can do a little bit of both. Like he could.
I just meant like for me at least, remembering how he's built a little thicker, and I tend to think of the Joker as a thinner like character.
A thin guy. I know they made him a little more like his build in Under the Red Hood, which the animated movie was about, the Red Hood Robin Tim Drake storyline. So I could see it, and it's something we haven't seen before. It's not going to be, like over the top funny like Jack Nicholson sort of was.
Yeah.
Or I think it'll be definitely more on par with Heath Ledger's Joker, but I also think it'll be a nice balance of the two.
Between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is what it needs.
Yeah, that's what was missing. Like, I was super invested in Heath Ledger's Joker, but he couldn't really bring that almost clownish, funny part.
There was no joke.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it.
It was all the
Yeah.
and no joke.
And the opposite with Jack Nicholson. Like, I never felt threatened by him. He just was this wacky guy that had, like, weird gags pulling out of his pocket, like the buzzer that.
Which I got to be honest. I mean, I made it known on the show many times before, but I actually prefer that Joker to Heath Ledger's Joker because of that.
Yeah,
like the joke was there.
Yeah,
and that was enough. The rest I could imagine.
Yeah, fair enough. So, I do think they've got a good choice for the Joker. It would be cool to see Martin Scorsese do it, but maybe he'll write the script. I'm not familiar with Todd Phillips. And
he's done other stuff.
I'm sure he has.
That name is super familiar, but I can't, off the top of my head, I don't remember what he's done. Mm-hmm. Normally Bobby would go look it up, but I'm not doing that. That's too much work.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see it, and I'm going to see it. I'm probably going to see most Warner Brothers DC movies that come out. I just will probably go to a matinee.
I mean, I'll definitely see this one, for sure. For sure, I'm definitely interested.
Yeah.
So, do you want to talk about this Mortal Kombat reboot?
Yes.
All right.
I'll let you lead it, obviously.
So I don't know if this is just like loose talk or if this is confirmed shit that's out there. I don't know what's going on with this, but I'm already telling you I don't like where it's going. Okay, so so far, no Sub-Zero, no Goro, no Johnny Cage, and they want Raiden to possibly be a 14-year-old boy. But you're like thinking, oh, okay, so it's an origin story in Mortal Kombat. Because Sonya Blade is an adult and is recruiting a newer character to fight in the Mortal Kombat tournament. And they're also having Kano, Liu Kang, Jax, and Shang Tsung are all supposedly in this film. So if all these characters are in this film as adults, why is Raiden the God of Thunder within the context of Mortal Kombat?
Yeah.
A 14-year-old boy.
Maybe he's like possessing the 14-year-old boy.
Like, are you saying like his old corporeal form died and he got a new one?
Yes. Or it's a Billy Batson Shazam type thing where he can just say a word and turn into
something else.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. In this world where nothing matters.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I was lost when Sub-Zero, like, that's the character.
One of the most iconic characters in the franchise, besides Liu Kang and Johnny Cage, and you know, I don't. To be honest, this doesn't need a reboot. You remember when they tried to reboot Street Fighter as a live-action movie franchise, and it just wasn't that good. Yeah, I don't think that this needs this. Yeah. You honestly, I mean, most of those people, besides the guy who played Shang Tsung, I think are still alive. Mm-hmm. So you could just as easily just do a third film. I know that sounds weird because, like, that film is very campy in 90s. Yeah. But you can sort of, like, take some of that out. Yeah. And continue with just a third film. Yeah. And just I mean, because there's so many like main villains in Mortal Kombat by now. Yeah, totally. That, you know, there's more than just they had Shang Tsung in the first movie. They had Shao Kahn in the second movie. There's I can't remember all the names, but there's one that's like an Aztec god. Yeah. There's one that's like a bald monk-esque type character. There's at least 2 or 3 others. Yeah. So they could have gone somewhere else with this film. But they're treading over Shang Tsung again.
Yeah.
Which was only in the first video game anyway. Like, just...
You know,
what?
You say they should do a third film instead of this reboot. I think that's true, and they should probably keep the camp. I think it would play more, because you're dealing with Mortal Kombat, which is like...
You know what? You're right. The fucking guy coming up saying toasty, like, it fits. It all fits. So, yeah, I'm gonna retract my statement in terms of...
I just think it would work, especially now, like...
I don't know what kind of shape Robin Shao is in to reprise his role as Liu Kang, but I know that there is like an older version of Liu Kang. I think in one of the games or one of the continuities or comic books, because there's stuff outside of the games, you know, more recent. But yeah. I don't know if I'm excited for this.
It just seems weird. I mean, I know it's all rumors and what. I mean, so maybe it's like people are trying to get others interested in Mortal Kombat thing.
Maybe, but...
And maybe this is all like... They know all of this information is stupid. So they're putting it out there just to confirm it. So they can be like, oh no, we are putting Sub-Zero in. And do all this shit that you thought was wrong. I don't know.
That's one thing that I think I brought up on the show before. But like, I feel like a lot of these like leaks or like rumored information getting out is really like a way for them to get free market research.
Exactly.
Because people will immediately go, fuck no.
Yeah.
And they'll go, okay, we didn't have to pay any money for this market research. It was 100% free, and we know not to do that now.
Exactly.
So it could be. Yeah. Could be that's what they're doing.
I would hope.
Yeah.
I don't see it working otherwise. I mean, I could be wrong too. Like, maybe it surprises you and brings in other elements that, like, nobody was thinking of, but it just seems like a lot of things are against it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Like, why even call it Mortal Kombat?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I'd rather see a Battletoads movie. Dead serious.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we're getting a new Battletoads game.
Yeah.
So
we could totally do it.
Maybe they will give us a movie.
And I would prefer if they weren't CGI, but like reminiscent of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the 90s.
Oh my god, that's not going to happen.
They were wearing
I mean, I would
suits.
love that idea, but it's not going to happen. No.
That would have to be crowdfunded and independent.
Yeah.
Or you can't call them Battletoads.
Combat frogs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that would be an amazing idea. Just the soundtrack to that film would be great.
And then, like, halfway through the movie, it just stops with the words pause on screen, and it's just that sound.
Yeah.
Just for, like, 10 minutes.
You know what you could do with that? One application of 3D that I would be okay with if they paused it and they fucking 3D panned around the whole, like a whole fight scene.
Yeah.
And then unpaused it on like another angle.
That would be dope, actually.
Yeah.
I would love to see that.
Yeah. We should make this movie.
We really should. That's a solid idea.
Yeah. And it's free.
Yeah.
Because we have no legal or monetary power to come after you if you steal that idea, Hollywood.
That's true.
And we'll work for very low amounts of money.
Oh, for sure. We could play the combat frogs. I'll wear the suit. You can get somebody else to voice them.
If they did that, would you support as a second film a crossover Double Dragon Battletoads?
Yes, that would work just as well. I think you
Yeah.
could do a whole like library of games, just like.
Well, we could because we already know that Battletoads and Double Dragon, they're on different planets, but they take place in the same universe. So obviously, Double Dragon's on Earth. Mm-hmm. But Double Dragon also takes place in the same universe as River City Ransom.
All right.
And they're literally towns apart from each other.
Yeah.
So you could have a third film where you have like River City Ransom characters come in to the Double Dragon Battletoads universe.
Awesome.
So you could do like a whole... like an MCU of Battletoads characters.
And then like the final film Well, it would have to be like a Capcom versus Sega, or no, what was it? Capcom versus the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
That type style of final film, where it's just everyone fighting each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could do that. You could do like you could have other like side-scrolling beat 'em up characters like Streets of Rage come in, or Final Fight, or shit. There's other ones.
I was thinking like Contra.
Yeah, or Power Rangers.
Yeah.
You remember the Power Rangers side-scrolling
yeah.
beat 'em up? Why don't we have?
I don't know.
I think we jumped the shark though a little bit with Contra and Power Rangers.
Yeah, I know.
But
there are other ones we could pull, but those
yeah.
are just for some reason off the top of our heads.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Video game movies are rough because it's easy to translate the source material in terms of like story content or the way that things look.
Yeah.
I mean, some people might say it's not necessarily easy, but you're never going to be able to recreate the feeling of playing the game.
Right.
Which is, I think, one of the reasons why video game movies don't do well.
Yeah, and I can't honestly. I'd have to think about it for a while, but I can't think of a good one off the top of my head.
Good video game movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, there really isn't.
I mean, like, I didn't have a problem with Tomb Raider, but I don't really think it needed to be.
You know what?
Tomb
The Tomb Raider movies are probably some of the most successful video game movies. So yeah, I'll have to say.
And Resident Evil just kept going, which I know the games have kept
going.
didn't
know that's the film series didn't know when to quit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think is what its problem was. Like if it had just been that first film, where it introduces characters that don't exist in the universe, it would have been okay. It would have been like, oh, this is a standalone film.
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely... No, I lied. The best video game film is... This is going to fucking blow your mind. Postal.
Really?
By Uwe Boll.
Okay.
I'm telling you. All his films fucking suck except for Postal. Postal is amazing. And it's exactly like the game.
Yeah.
To a T. Everything. Zach Ward is in it. He plays the main character. Yeah, and it's hilarious.
Okay. I'll have to watch it. All right.
Yeah. That one is definitely the best, hands down the best video. Like, translation-wise.
Yeah.
From the game to the film, there's no difference.
Yeah.
There's no difference at all. Yeah, that was definitely a good one.
Okay.
So, Bobby didn't really leave us any video game news to talk about.
Right.
But one of the things that has been really in the news in terms of video game news recently has been a giant fight between a fired ArenaNet employee, games community, games media, and ArenaNet itself. So ArenaNet is a company that developed Guild Wars 2, which is an MMORPG. I played it years ago. It was a pretty good game. I've seen this individual's work. I think her name is Jessica Price.
Okay.
I would say that she does a really good job writing. And the guy that she attacked also frequently complimented her writing. So one day on her personal Twitter account, because it is her personal Twitter account, but she labels herself as an ArenaNet employee and was talking about something that relates heavily to the work that she does.
Yeah.
So this will play in later, but ArenaNet felt like that she was representing herself as an employee and therefore representing the company.
Right.
So that'll play into why she gets fired. But she made a post saying that it's nearly impossible to write a compelling player character for an MMORPG, which is a perfectly reasonable thing to say. She laid it out in about 29 different posts. I mean, like, it was like she was definitely like setting up a discussion.
Yeah.
And somebody, I think his name is Durar or something. He's some kind of like streamer. Like, he's not employed by ArenaNet, but he's like an official partner content creator type dude.
Yeah, like they maybe they pay him a small amount to like review a game
or
something like that.
get him content early or something like
Yeah.
to he's connected in some way. So
Like a preferred customer, sort of.
yeah,
Yeah. Something weird. I know there's a name for it, but
yeah,
not the point.
but so he's pretty popular in the Guild Wars 2 community.
Mm-hmm.
So he decided to reply to her post, and he said, you make some really good points, and he points out the ones that he really feels are the most compelling from her argument, and says, but I feel like it is possible to write a compelling character, and I think that I'm going to give X examples of why I feel that. And she immediately accused him of mansplaining her job to her. So, gender was not any part of the discussion at all. And I feel like this part, she was incorrect. She was heavily incorrect. And she was extremely aggressive about it, calling him and members of the Guild Wars communities rando asshats. It's not super offensive, but he immediately said, all right, I'm not going to be part of this discussion. He kind of pulled out immediately. And apparently at that point, the CEO of ArenaNet made the decision that he was going to fire her. Another employee, a male, got involved, sort of defending her actions, and that person also got fired. Okay. But after that, of course, that anytime a woman tries to defend herself, even though I feel like she was defending herself from nothing in this case.
Right. Because he wasn't attacking her. He was attacking the argument. He was presenting another side of it.
Yeah. So that anytime, especially women, when they say, this is sexism or anything, what type of people that brings out. Mm-hmm. So she ended up bringing to herself exactly what she claimed that she was fighting against, which she wasn't initially.
Right.
So this is why this is a very complex issue.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that all happened on July 4th. On July 5th, when ArenaNet and everybody at ArenaNet went back to work, she was fired and this other guy was fired. And she immediately went to the media and started saying that she was fired because she was a woman defending herself. And all this other stuff. And she was fired specifically for the one interaction between her and Durar, not the other members of the community that were actually... Because there were people that were being pieces of shit.
Yeah,
that they're there.
Yeah.
They're out there. And one of the things that she accused specifically the CEO of Guild Wars in his post that he announced that she was being fired and was talking about how unfortunate it was and talked specifically about one of her most famous scenes that she wrote for the game. She accused him of reducing all of her work that she had done at ArenaNet to this one scene, which is not the context or anything that it was said. She accused him of firing her because she was a female, but he also fired this other male employee who was defending her actions against Durar.
Yeah.
And ArenaNet has a pretty decent history of going after people who are like anti-fem.
Okay.
So I can't remember exactly when they posted this, but they were talking about the massive amount of women's work that goes into making Guild Wars 2. Yeah. A lot of it's writing work. I mean, they're basically in every branch of the company doing work. And was saying, like, if that's how you feel, then why do you like this game? Because this game is heavily influenced by female writers, female content creators, 3D modelers, and all kinds of stuff. So I just feel like she's just being extremely overdramatic. And it's hard to say that about a woman who's trying to defend herself.
Right.
Because there is legitimate stuff she's trying to defend herself from. But ArenaNet and Durar are not those things, but that's what she seems to be focusing on.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the media that's interviewing her skewing things.
Yeah, that's also another element that you can't...
Exactly. You have sensationalist media latching onto these stories.
Yeah.
So it's a very complicated issue, and it doesn't seem to be going away.
Yeah.
Which is why we're talking about it, because it happened, like I said, on July 4th. So it's been 1.5 weeks, and people are still talking about it. So it's difficult, but she's decided to take on almost the entire industry now at this point, calling out any company, anybody who doesn't agree with her.
Yeah.
And the people that are on her side are people like what's his name? From Gearbox Software, Randy Pitchford.
Okay.
Who is notoriously unpopular.
Yeah.
Because he's a fucking idiot. I'm just gonna be real.
Way to describe it.
I'm gonna be real with you. He's a fucking idiot. And this is difficult to watch. Mm-hmm. It's difficult to watch anytime anybody misapplies this kind of logic to something. Yeah. Because especially when you support those causes.
Right. Because
it makes it more difficult to apply these types of criticisms in legitimate situations. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I definitely now I want to read the discourse that they had if it's still up, which I
think it is.
Okay. But no, it sounds like, she presented an argument that was sort of up for discussion, mm-hmm. and then somebody was like, okay, I'll respond to this. They presented,
which I got to tell you, that streamer, like I said, has been a fan of her work for a long time.
Yeah, so
and has specifically named her in praise on his streams.
So he wasn't just like, I'm going to shit on this person's day by responding to this.
Yeah.
Because he is a fan of her work. And he also, like you said, pointed out things that he agrees with.
Yeah.
So he's presenting, okay, I can understand these points. And then I'm going to give a counterpoint to the other half.
To the other ones that I don't think are correct. Yeah.
So, that seems like a very mature, I'm going to have this discussion with you because mm-hmm. you've opened the door and now I can do this. And regardless of what everyone else was saying, what did she call him or the group?
The community, Rando Asshats. She was talking about how, that he's a fragile man that came onto her personal Twitter feed. Her personal private Twitter feed, which, by the way, you can be private on Twitter and not have people that you don't know follow you, and that's not the way her Twitter account's set up. And when you represent yourself as a ArenaNet employee, blah blah blah, I'm the blah 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 writer for Guild Wars 2.
Well, even aside from what her job is, she's still another person on the internet that you can converse with, especially if it's not a private account.
Yeah. But I guess her excuse was that he came to mansplain to her, which is not really what happened in this context, to her private personal Twitter account,
right?
That's not what it was.
No.
The way that your Twitter account was set up was public, and you were representing yourself as an employee of ArenaNet.
Yeah. So it sounds like he had a legitimate
reason to engage, right?
Exactly, and she not only allowed for it to happen, but she was almost asking, I have this argument for these reasons.
Yeah, if somebody would come on and be like, you're fucking dumb because you're a woman, stupid bitch. I would have been like, yeah, I'm with you 9,000%.
Yeah.
Fucking throw that guy off the bridge.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But she it hit her the wrong way, and maybe she read a bunch of the other comments on it that pushed her over the edge.
That's one of the things that I think is is this really the first comment that she received? Had people actually been harassing her before?
Yeah.
And she just blew up on the wrong guy.
Right.
Because after all the evidence was looked at.
And I mean, as much as she has a right to defend herself,
definitely
resorting to rando asshats and things like that, it's not really enhancing your argument. That's
exactly
whining about somebody disagreeing with you in the worst possible way.
She was resorting to ad hominem attacks.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying I don't agree with you here, I don't agree with you there, or she could have said hey, I know I posted this, but I'm not really looking for a discussion.
Yeah. I wanted this out there, and that's
it. Would have been over with.
Yeah. That's sort of anytime I get into the comment section on things, I try not to engage, but I will put my thoughts out there or agree or disagree with whatever the post is. And then you get into it with somebody, and the minute they're like, you spelt this, this, and this wrong, it's like they have no real argument to come back at you at. They're just mad.
Yeah.
And that seems kind of what she did.
Mm-hmm.
And then turned it into a gender war for some reason because of the results of her being fired, which was more so, like you said,
because
about
her behavior, she was representing the company.
Yeah.
Whether she claimed she wasn't, but when you have yourself listed as an employee,
yeah,
and listed about what you do for that company, and you're talking about an issue that your company would deal with, that's pretty representative of your company.
Exactly. Yeah, so it just doesn't seem... It just seems like a ridiculous thing that she took too far and is still taking too far.
Yeah. Because she really hasn't stopped. Like, I'm still getting updates about this story. Like today, on the way here, I was listening to one.
Okay.
Which is like what I'm saying. Like, people are still talking about this shit.
Yeah. And
like, the issue between her and Durar is a complete non-issue, and the fact that she keeps driving it home is why.
And if
people would be on your side if you would go after people who actually did something to you, but this guy didn't fucking do anything.
Like if she had a pattern of this sort of thing happening,
which I'm sure she did.
Yeah,
I'm going to be honest with you. I know what the games community is like.
Yeah.
I know what kind of people are in there. Some people are not fucking good.
But then to have this more or less scapegoat to where you can finally voice it because he's more or less well known and he came at you on a public site.
Yeah, it seems like there's an agenda at play, right?
A little bit, yeah.
So,
and I plan on reading the comments and everything, but from what you're describing, it sounds like she just went off on the wrong person, like you said. And that's what you got to be careful with. Like, people do that sort of thing all the time, and then once they bring in a political, or not, this isn't political so much, but it could form into something political.
I mean, it's
like a social issue.
Yeah, it's like social, cultural. I mean, there's a little bit of politics in there as well.
Yeah.
I mean, these things are not, completely detached from each other. But
right, yeah. But once you pull that card, there you can't go back and be like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now it's out of the box, and you just have to, in her instance, she's going to take it as far as she can take it, get as much attention to it as possible, when really it doesn't sound like there's a basis for that.
Yeah.
Just because it's sensationalized.
And she's claiming, like I said, that she's being fired for defending herself, essentially.
Right.
But this isn't the first time that she's said things like this. Mm-hmm. But when she said them before, she was actually being attacked in some sort of gendered sexist way.
Yeah, normally.
Which is why ArenaNet didn't fire her for those occasions, because she was totally in the right. So it seems like it's very, I don't know what the word is, maybe opportunist. Like she's seeing an opportunity because it's somebody that, I don't want to say matters because nobody really fucking matters, but
has a bit of a voice out there.
Yeah, like he's
a public face. Yeah,
he has a public face. Yeah. So it's, you know what I mean? Like Harvey Weinstein gets airplay on the news. It's not just because he's a rapist, because there's hundreds of rapists out there that nobody ever fucking hears about or sees.
Yeah.
And it's because the rapist and the person who is victimized, they're not fucking famous.
Right.
So most people don't care. It's sick, but that's the way that things are. And I think that's part of the problem here is that this guy has a public profile.
Yeah. And
she has something that is totally worthwhile fighting for, that she wants to fight for. But I don't like using this word because most people don't understand what it means. But I like to think of this as like misapplied identity politics.
Okay.
Because what she's doing is taking an issue that has nothing to do with what's going on and trying to apply her I don't know what the word is, identiological outlook on this.
Yeah.
That he engaged her because she's a woman. No, he engaged her because he's a fan of your game and your work.
Right.
And you posted something and that he thought it was very intriguing, but he didn't agree with everything that was in it.
Exactly. Like out of 10 total times she's been in an argument with somebody, that she had the right to pull this what you just said, you called it the applied.
Misapplied, identity politics,
identity
misapplied.
politics. When she didn't apply it to those 9 times, but
which it would have been correct.
But on the 9th or the 10th time, it's not relevant to what they're talking about.
Yeah,
but it's an opportunity to do that.
Yeah,
and that's shitty.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I think too. I mean, it's tough because I've experienced some of her writing because like I said, I played that game and it's for an MMO, which most MMOs are fucking. They have terrible stories.
Yeah. And
the only reason you play is because it's got decent gameplay and you're playing with friends.
Right.
But her writing was fucking good.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, the thing is like, any company that needs a talent like that has to be wary about hiring her now.
Yeah.
Because what happens when something doesn't go her way?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Be, thinking about this instance where shit just went out of left field and how they would deal with it if that happened again. Because if they fire her, then she could just be like, well, it's just like the company I was working with before.
Yeah, they fired me because of... And here's the thing. If she does get fired ever for being a woman who's defending herself in a legitimate situation, because she did this, even if it's true, people are going to question it now.
Yeah.
It's like the boy who cried wolf.
Yeah, totally.
And this is a very rough and complex thing that it's difficult because a lot of the criticism I see being thrown at her isn't necessarily correct. But I mean, it's pretty well known. I don't necessarily hide them. We don't talk about them on here, but my political views are not hidden at all.
Yeah.
So I expect a certain quality of critique for these types of issues, and it's not coming from the people that are critiquing her, and it's not coming from the people on her side either.
Right.
So it's rough to talk about these types of things.
Totally.
Especially, you have to realize that we're both male as well. So we talk about these things, and we're addressing only what we factually know, but it's not impossible for there to be an unconscious bias.
Totally.
So
because we haven't experienced that perspective because we are male.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's difficult stuff to talk about.
That's the kind of thing when Hillary and I had seen Black Panther and then we wanted to talk about it. Like, we are not sort of the demographic necessarily because it's a very black cultural movie and things like that.
Yeah.
So we had to be very careful of the language we were using. And I mean like the cinema language versus like the cultural language versus all this other shit, because we didn't have no idea what it means to somebody who the movie is more for. Yeah. So in this instance, we both are doing the best we can with the information we're given.
Exactly. All we have to go off is the information.
Yeah. And we're not discrediting people that have, the problem of sexism being, thrown at them when they're trying to defend themselves. This is about a woman. It doesn't even matter if she's a woman in this instance.
It's just about somebody misapplying any kind of ideological property to an argument where it doesn't belong. It doesn't fit into. There's no context for it.
Exactly.
So she could be anything. It wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest with you, the group that does this the most is white males. So, it's a difficult issue.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of very deep talks going on about Black Panther.
Yeah.
In sort of my political circles.
Yeah.
When it came out. So, and we did talk about some of that on the show.
Yeah, because you have to with that particular movie.
But I don't expect these types of issues to go away for now.
Right.
Because the average person isn't at the political education level or awareness level where they can understand and properly analyze and apply concepts to these. Yeah. To these types of issues.
Objectively, even.
Yeah. And I think that might be part of Jessica's problem.
Yeah.
Is that she's sort of at an unprincipled stage. Mm-hmm. She's heading in the right direction, but she's at an unprincipled stage. And I think that might be part of the issue that she's having here.
Yeah, definitely.
With not being able to properly critique or analyze or identify when something is an attack and when something is a legitimate criticism.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Solid, yeah.
That's really the only game news that I really had that was pressing for me.
I don't really have game news, but at the same time, I don't know if you guys talked about the Friday the 13th game a while back.
I think we did, about how they're or maybe I just heard about it. So let's talk about it anyways.
All right, it's just
if we went over it again, we'll cut that part out.
Yeah, but because one of the original script writers for one of the Friday the 13th movies has brought up this lawsuit about his property and all the subsequent movies and shit and the content that's been made from the Friday the 13th franchise, because it's in a limbo in court.
Yeah, sort of legal limbo.
Yeah. The Friday the 13th game can't produce any new content, so now they're stuck.
I did hear about this, yeah. So, I don't know if we talked about it, but I did definitely hear about this.
So, like, they're still going to make patches and updates, and God knows the game does need it. Yeah. But they were releasing, like, new playable counselors from, like, likenesses of the characters in the movies, and there was supposed to be, like, in one of the game menus, there's like a virtual cabin that you could see like tips and hints, or not tips and hints, like factual information about the creation of the game. So you get to go through, like walk through this cabin, and then if you go into the basement and have done all these like clue things throughout the cabin, it unlocks like almost player trophies, but like visual representations of Jason in these glass boxes. Yeah. And then there's one that's covered at the end of the thing that if you get so far and unlock all the clues, it unlocks Uber Jason from Jason X. Mm-hmm. And he escapes or something, and then you get to go on the ship. And they were going to make this whole playable level where you can go on the ship, like it's called the Grendel, I think, and play it as a level. As one of the campsites that you could play through and hide from Jason and all that shit. But that they like previewed it, but they were still developing it because the game is still being developed, even though it's released. And,
that's a newer thing in gaming. And now in development games.
Which, I mean, Friday the 13th, the game, yes, there was a lot of problems with it, and it was very laggy and a lot of bugs, but for the concept of what it was good. It was
pretty interesting.
And it wasn't, a $60 game you were buying. It was, I think, like $30 at the time or something. So I took a chance on it. I think I got it even less than that because I waited so long.
Yeah, you and Sam Fish both bought it,
Yeah, because I was finally like, this is awesome. You get to play as Jason or a counselor and, like, play hide and seek, but there were elements of, like, escaping where you could fill up a car with gasoline and then jumpstart the battery and then make your way out of the camp. And cool shit like that. But now, all the cool things that we were not promised, but that we were expecting has been put on hold and possibly never going to happen. Yeah. And that's shitty.
Yeah, I remember when this game started as a Kickstarter project.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was worried at that point because, I mean, I don't know how much you know about the video games that have come out of Kickstarter.
A few.
Most of them didn't end up too good.
Yeah.
Most of them ended up over-promising and under-delivering heavily. Which
is a clear problem when you're crowdfunding a video game that takes a lot of work, a lot of people to make happen. And
Yeah. And the problem with the Kickstarter is that you start gathering money at the stage that you start gathering, investment in video game development is at a stage where there really isn't much to show. Yeah. It's all sort of like business concept documents and everything. Exactly. And so people donate thinking that they're going to get this game in like a year. Yeah. And that's not how it works. Right. So there was a lot of games that like took forever. Mm-hmm. And then one of the ones that took forever is, I'm sure you probably heard us talking about before, was Mighty Number 9. Yes. Which kept getting delayed, and it came out and it looked terrible. Yeah. And the initial concept was, hand-drawn, animated 2D sprites, and they ended up going with 3D shit that was done in the Unreal Engine. It just didn't look good.
Yeah.
And the story was terrible. The characters had like annoying voices and bad dialogue. So it's rough. It's not, and for the quality of what they eventually brought out, it's really surprising that it didn't do better, in my opinion, once it hit retail shelves.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting concept, and it's a shame that it's basically been struggling constantly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad
it's been through, for it to exist after all the roughness it went through. Is pretty impressive.
And there is a lot of cool elements in the game, and the virtual cabin's really cool. But they also have a single player mode. Or like typically you play it online with a bunch of people, and either you're Jason hunting down these people or you're one of the characters trying to escape.
Yeah.
But the single player mode is just with computer bots.
Yeah.
So you do get the same feeling you would get if you're playing online. The only problem with that is you can only play as Jason. You can't play as any of the counselors. So unless you have...
Because they didn't make AI for Jason?
Right.
Yeah.
So unless you have the online playability... you never get to experience what being a counselor is like, which to me I think is the more interesting part, because like the elements that Jason has is like you have to gain so much like power for them. You can't just do them all at once.
Yeah,
but
they're like on a cooldown, like they charge up, and then when you use them, it starts charging up again.
Yeah, so there's like the morph mode where you're standing in a spot, you pick a part on the map that you want to jump to, and just jump to it.
Yeah,
like Jason would show up if you open a door and he's right there, like cool elements like that, or the Evil Dead style where you can like be in a position and swipe through the woods and end up right on somebody, like cool shit like that. But being the counselor, like I said, you can either pick up weapons and try to fight your way out, or like you make a phone, you repair the radio and call Tommy Jarvis from one of the movies to have him come and like rescue you or shit like that, or call the police. Things like that bring another dimension to the game than other just hide and seek.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if they're ever going to get to finish or whatever other plans they had other than like the few playable levels.
Yeah.
But like from a concept, it works pretty well.
Yeah.
It's just missing like a lot of the meat to it.
So I got to ask you this question. Do you think that a concept like this, or do you think that this is I should say a proof of concept enough for there to be more effort put into it? Or do you think that because of this issue that it's facing, that by the time that this clears itself up, the ship might have already sailed? Well,
the problem I saw was that there were other games similar in style that were being released before this one had been released. And
I think with Dead by Daylight is one of them.
Dead by Daylight, and I think there's literally like seven ways to die, or it's literally like in a high school, but the same concept, you're running from a killer. And I haven't played those games, but this had it going for it that it was a Friday the 13th property.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people that love the franchise for how ridiculous it is, but that they were finally going to get to play like a newer video game, not an NES.
What's that game?
Yeah, I know. But you could like play as Jason, or that's a lot of the like Call of Duty, and it even be Dead by Daylight or something like that. They have like downloadable skins where you could be like Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers. Yeah. And a lot of people like that idea. But to put it into its own world, where it's not just like a war game that you're introducing a strange character that probably shouldn't be there, you get to play at Camp Crystal Lake with characters that are based on the characters from the movie. Yeah. So now that there's this trouble with the actual franchise itself, I think it's going to get cleared up way down the line, and it will have missed the boat. Like, people will be like, well, the game wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be when I backed it. Yeah. And everything up to this point has just been a letdown, so I'm done. And then there's going to be no point to doing anything else.
That's what I'm saying. Like, by the time that this legal issue clears itself up, is there going to be any point to putting more work into the game?
play it and like want more shit, but I'm one of like a very small minority that like.
Yeah,
it's a shame, and it would be cool if this.
Because I know Sam was a little bit pissed off about how things were going with it after he'd, more recently, but after he'd bought it.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't have spent $60 on it, and I don't think with a Kickstarter game that's not fully developed that they could do that and people would be fine with it.
I think that their price point was probably smart.
Yeah. I do think that was, and I like I said, I didn't buy it at 30 or whatever. I think I bought it for like 10 or something. But it sucks because they'll never, like, since this game isn't doing well, both conceptually and with whatever legal issues they're having, there won't be any other games like a Nightmare on Elm Street game or like Michael Myers shit. Like, it just doesn't seem plausible. Like, what would be the point?
Well, yeah, I think you're partially right. I think part of what goes against what you're saying is that they kind of already have a game engine developed. So it would be just a matter of
tweak it and
tweaking,
make it better,
yeah,
but just change out characters and things. Like that. I guess
so. Like change some. Obviously, Freddy Krueger has different abilities, so they change out the abilities, use the same sort of game engine.
I guess that's true. If the technology already exists, then you're just improving upon it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that it's probably, like, my main concern is I think that, like, they're not going to probably put any more work into this game.
No,
I think
not.
I think they promised to fix all the issues that the game currently has, and I think they will deliver on that because they've been pretty good with their community, meeting community demands. In regards to how other Kickstarter games have handled themselves. Totally. Some people might be like, it's not fast enough. Well, other Kickstarter games never fucking came back to fix the issues, so you should be pretty thankful.
And they've stayed on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like literally, I read that there was going to be a single player mode, and at the time I didn't have online play. So when I bought it, by the time I bought it, it was done, and it was only like a month or so later. Yeah, and they were really good about keeping on top of that. So it's just a shame. That game has a lot of potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You still playing No Man's Sky?
Yeah.
Really?
I am. For as dumb as it is, it's one of those games I can just sort of shut my mind off. And like I've said before on here, I keep notes of like where I've been and how I'm traveling. And I really don't know why I'm playing it because it is the same thing over and over again.
Well, they've added a lot more. Didn't they add like a whole fucking, like, you can build a space station or some shit now?
Yeah. I don't... It's been like a couple weeks since I played it, so I don't know if they've improved in the time it's been since my last play, but even those things, you have to like go through a long process to get them up and running. Yeah. And I'm not sure how they help you later on. Like, I'm sure there's a purpose for it. The only thing I can do right now is park my spaceship there. And then you have like an exocraft that you can mine for shit. But I was doing fine before that. Like, before I even knew my ship could leave the planet and like, come back to it, I was just walking everywhere, mining shit with my stupid laser gun. But I just wish there was more like, there was you get to learn the language of the ancient ones or whatever it is. I wish there was more of that type of shit. And I wish I could keep note of it and like document it, but there's no way to do it because you collect those stones and then it replaces the words in the dialogue boxes, so you don't even know what they used to be.
Oh, so you're thinking like, I need to learn how to translate this shit so that I don't need the stones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
you're trying to Indiana Jones fucking No Man's Sky.
Yeah, and I think that added element has made it more enjoyable for me. If I was playing it the normal way, I think it would be very boring and I would lose interest pretty quickly.
Like, I really enjoyed it for the first 10 hours, but...
Yeah, after that.
I mean, I had it when it first came out, so there was, like, nothing in that fucking game. And after 10 hours, I realized that I'm just going to different planets solely for the purpose to see how different they look, and sometimes they don't look that different. Yeah. So I'm like, why am I doing this?
Like, some of the animals are different, but other than that...
Well, what would really piss me off is when I went to a planet that had an atmosphere and that had, like, normal temperatures and shit that would be, like, perfect for life to live there, and there was nothing. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that doesn't even make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and then other times you'd go and it would be like full of shit. There'd be like fucking giant dinosaur things and dragons flying through the air. And
Yeah.
And
I wish you could like do something with them, but the only thing I can do is catalog them.
Yeah.
For units, which I'm fine with cataloging things in this universe, but it has to stop at some point. It has to be beneficial in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did find a pretty dope spaceship pretty quickly, but that was, again, from walking the entire planet.
Yeah.
Because I was so afraid I'd get in my spaceship and it would leave the planet. I'd never be able to come back, and then all the work I was going to do was just gone.
Yeah.
That's not the case. You actually can use your ship to fly the planet.
Yeah.
Pretty close to the atmosphere.
I think one of the things that really pissed me off is that like when they were building the game initially, there were a lot of things they promised that I'm not sure that they're still even in the game.
Okay.
I think that a lot of them have been brought in, but one of those things was that you were going to be able to build your spaceship from scratch.
Yeah.
So I'm like, fucking sick. I'm going to build this Soyokaze from the irresponsible Captain Tyler and fly that motherfucker around, and it was going to be great.
Yeah.
And really, you didn't have that ability at all. That there was like, when the game first came out, I think there was like 26 different ship models, and they each came in like 3 different colors.
Yeah.
And they didn't really have stats.
No.
They were like, it can hold this much shit. And then
That's it.
And that was the difference.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's the purpose of anything in this game? I mean, when I got 10 hours in, I'm like, this isn't holding up. It's not delivering on anything.
Yeah.
The only thing that it delivered was on the wonderment of exploring for the first 10 hours. And like, when I heard that you were still playing the game, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But they've added quite a bit, and that's why I was asking you about it. But yeah.
Yeah. The other thing was I found a portal that you need to find, like, I can't remember what they're called. There might be glyphs or something like that powers it. But once it's on, and you can like world jump just by going through it, which is cool and saves time. But unless you have a portal open somewhere, you can't use it.
So you have to find 2 portals for it to work.
Basically, yeah. That's my experience with it. Again, I don't know if they've changed it since then, but I found that. And then I realized I needed 12 glyphs to open the portal in the first place. And like it gives you a code for your world that you can write down and use again later. But then I couldn't actually go anywhere with the portal.
Because again, you need another 12 glyphs to open up another portal that you were going to have to find at random.
Yep. And I only found that one because I was walking the planet.
Yeah.
And I turned left instead of right.
So would you say that's more like the concept of like Stargate, like the sci-fi series Stargate?
Yeah, pretty much.
Where like both the gates had to be open for you to jump through?
Yeah. It's a good way to look at it. Yeah. It could be so cool. I don't know if they'll keep doing anything with it.
I think so, because I think the game, everything that's out on it now is being repackaged and re-released for the Xbox One.
Okay.
So I think that there's probably going to be future updates.
Cool.
But it's kind of shitty that like they're giving... I mean, I don't really give a fuck about console exclusivity unless it's made by first... if Sony makes it, it should be exclusive. If Activision makes it, it should be on both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If a third party makes it, it shouldn't be exclusive. But I think it's kind of shitty that they're giving them like the full experience and the $60 game, which I don't know if it's going to be $60 or if it's going to be $49.99 or $50. I don't know what the price is going to be, but I feel like it's kind of shitty that I paid $60 for like 1/10 of the experience that exists now, and then they're going to give that to somebody else to experience for the first time complete, and it's a little shitty to me.
Yeah.
But what can I say? I mean, I could go out and buy a copy of that game for $9.99 or less anywhere.
Yeah.
Because they printed millions of them and everybody traded it in almost instantaneously because there was nothing in the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's easy to get a hold of if I ever wanted to go back to it.
Oh, for sure. I'm glad I waited as long as I did.
Yeah.
Because it was a little more enjoyable than what you guys have described when first getting it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But It's missing an element, and I don't know what it is. Other than building your own ship would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be fucking amazing. Like, did you ever play Kingdom Hearts at all?
Yeah.
You remember the gummy ship?
Yeah.
I would love to have something like that, but a little bit more detailed.
Yeah.
That'd be
cool, yeah.
Yeah. But I can't even explain to you what it was. Like, literally, I'm just having a really good time exploring and shit, and then at 10 hours, it's like a switch just went off my head. I'm like, this is bullshit. It wasn't gradual at all.
Yeah,
it was just like
happened.
It just happened. I'm like, I'm doing the same fucking thing over and over again. What the fuck?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but all right. I think this has been a good show.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I think Bobby better be able to fucking do something with this. He didn't leave me instructions like he told me he would to pull the audio out of this. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm just gonna try and figure it out on my own. And see if I can get that uploaded.
Yeah.
But the videos are going to have to wait for him. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm too lazy for that. But yeah, all right. This has been great. Thanks for coming here,
of
Matt,
course.
and filling in.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you live in the city again so that we have somebody to do this instead of just skipping a week.
Yeah.
Bobby would probably just do it by himself, but
it'd be like the Matthew Danko podcast.
You don't want me talking to myself. But, yeah. So, all right. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, no problem.
And I should tell you that if you are listening to this either on YouTube or iTunes or Google Play, Stitcher, whatever, we're on all those platforms. Our Facebook page is www.facebook.com/GTAS podcast. Twitter is www.twitter.com. I almost went right into the /GTAS podcast. And then in the YouTube link, in the video description below, we have links to our Google Play, our Stitcher, and our iTunes. And Bobby keeps telling me it's hard to find us on iTunes. I don't know because I don't use iTunes.
He was saying it was hard because you guys have changed the name, but I don't think it's that hard to find it.
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I haven't used iTunes since they patched it for Windows and it had a giant massive memory leak, and I'm like, done. Yeah. Anytime I open iTunes, nothing will open for 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that was years ago.
Yeah.
I quit using it, but yeah, that's it. That's all there is to it. I don't really know. I'm not Bobby. Yeah. I'm not nearly as well organized. I'm very I don't know.
Winging it? Yeah,
I'm winging it. Bobby has a very structured way of doing things, and I live my entire life by the skin of my teeth. So that's what you're seeing right now.
And it's perfect.
Yeah. So anyways, thanks. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, for the 14th time, thank you for coming, Matt.
You're welcome.
And yeah, catch us again. All right.